if I choose to work. Because I know that my worthiness is no longer placed on my success in my business. Oh, I'm unworthy of being fully supported by my partner, when I'm going through a transition phase, when I'm going through a phase in my business where I'm creating a new foundation for things. And it's been an unlearning and then relearning of what it gets to feel like in a relationship.
Welcome, beautiful souls, to another mind-blowing episode of the Liberate Your Bliss podcast. I'm Chelsi, and today we're diving deep into the world of conscious entrepreneurship, energy healing, and the raw journey of self-discovery. And today's episode is especially close to my heart as we explore the transformative power of healing in the intricate dance between running a business and nurturing a relationship, and how that uncovers the wounds and the wisdom along the way. My guest today is one of my dear friends, Maggie, a fellow healer who has wrestled with the societal and religious expectations in seeking her truth and carving her own path as an entrepreneur. Together in this episode, we'll navigate through the maze of burnout, which I'm sure many of you can relate to, the awakening power of Kundalini energy, and how being in love while growing a business can reveal both our deepest fears and our highest joys. So prepare for some revelations, heart connections, and insights that resonate with your soul's journey. This episode is for anyone who's ever felt the weight of the world while trying to rise above it, and I hope you enjoy it. Really excited to have you back on. What is really sad is that our first podcast got lost in transition. So Maggie, what has been new with you? You've been all around the world. Tell me what's going on.
Oh my goodness. I feel like every time I come back to Bali, it's like only been months, like 6 months that I was gone, but so much happens and shifts when you're on this path. It's like I feel like I've shed probably 1,000 layers of myself while I was away, but at the same time, I feel like so embodied, and it feels so natural to be back here in Bali. So yeah, a lot has shifted and changed since last year and since we did our first podcast. So I'm super grateful to be here today and to meet you right now again in this more like embodied, evolved place that I think both of us are at.
I love the word embodied for it. I think before there was a lot of search for truth.
Yeah.
And I think there's been a big coming home, which has had its highs and lows of bringing it back into balance, but just really excited to be here.
Exactly. Yeah. Coming home is, I think, like the best way to put it, because I think when you especially are on this spiritual path, you can get pulled in so many different directions, so many different identities of who you are as a healer, as someone who's on this path. What I feel like we've both been going through is just coming back to who are we actually, like fully embodying, like all the aspects of us, instead of just this Bali version or just this like US version or version of us in relationships. And yeah, it's really cool to be where we are today.
So what's going on with you with healing? Are you still doing spinal energetics, or are you kind of taking a new approach?
I am still doing spinal energetics, but also incorporating now in hypnotherapy as well. So bringing in that mental aspect along with the energetic physical aspect with the nervous system as well. It's changed drastically, and yet it just feels like it's become more grounded in a way. It's less like super... I'm still bringing in a lot of woo aspects, of course. That's a part of it, but it feels like it's much more grounded in a way that we're working on all aspects of the body, not just the nervous system. It's the mind, the physical body, the energy body. It's the whole picture. And it's less about how much trauma can we release, and it's more about how can we help you shift into this new identity, into this new timeline in the most easeful way, where after even 1 or 2 sessions, your entire life has shifted. Instead of it being like we need to do 10 sessions of you having this cathartic crying and releasing the trauma and shaking and all that. It's like, and this is what I feel like you and I have both really come to the conclusion of how can we create the most change in our clients in the fastest and safest way.
I love that, because I think there was a big movement where we were so disconnected from our physical bodies that when we started to do the healing, coming back into the body was very daunting and cathartic and so many psychosomatic events that were happening. But I think people got obsessed with that release. It became a new high. I chased spirituality in that way of release, where I thought if I wasn't releasing trauma, I wasn't doing my work. And it became another obsession where the power was outside of myself. And I really don't believe I was actually healing. I think I was really re-traumatizing my nervous system. I've been bringing more gentler healing in, which before I would have said was boring. You know, the Reiki and the hypnotherapy, I would have said that's boring, whereas the Kundalini and spinal energetics are more powerful. But why is it always about how strong and how powerful it feels? Why can't gentle be just as healing?
Exactly, because what our bodies actually need is to return to that parasympathetic state where actual healing takes place. And yes, there is a time and place that it can be helpful to have the cathartic release, but maybe like once or twice, you know? It doesn't need to be every time you are going through a healing process, because like you said, it's actually putting your body back into that trauma, back into that fight or flight. And the world that we live in today is constantly keeping us, like 80% of our days we're in sympathetic, which it actually should be the opposite. We should be in our parasympathetic mode 80% of our days. But in the technological world that we live in, it's becoming, you know, you see it all around you, right? Everybody's like, oh, you know, I'm super anxious, super stressed. I need to regulate my nervous system. Like everybody resonates with that. And so I think the healing has to also reflect that as well. It has to really meet people where they need to go, instead of let's see how deep we can go, let's see how hard, because it's just hustle culture in a different outfit, different clothing,
masked with spirituality, but it's the same hustle, grind, faster is better, achieve, perform, very masculine energy. And to be honest with you, healing should be soft, gentle, theta brainwaves is where we need to be. So yes, of course, there are times when those responses are going to happen, but if that's what you're chasing, you're missing the point.
I don't want to call people out, but I'm going to call people out. It's like people who are, you know, going to Kundalini or going to plant medicine, going to ayahuasca 30 times, you know, over the span of a couple years. That's dangerous.
Very.
Like, if you are doing those types of things, you're actually playing with something that you don't really respect
or understand.
And
I think that what ends up happening is we end up riddled with entities that mask energetics that can make you feel sicker longer. And we really need to bring attention to the fact that when you're engaging in spiritual practices in ceremonial space, like because of the polar world that we live in, when we're letting go and when we're emotional, that is when those energies, those heavy energies are just sitting there. And if you don't have discernment and you don't understand what's going on and you're not connected in to unconditional love frequency and knowing how to clear your field, it's a feeding ground to just bring in more anxious, more pain, more busy.
Like, I want to send compassion to those people, because that was me at one point. When I first started my journey with energy healing, with Kundalini and all of that, it was like you open this brand new world and it's so exciting. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm awakening, blah, 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 blah. But it can actually be so ego driven. And it's like, oh, I'm more evolved, more awakened. And it actually can be so harmful for us as humans to, go through that process of an awakening without really understanding the gravity of what is happening when we are energetically cleansing, when we are, awakening our kundalini, when we are having these sessions. It's almost like, I feel like we've almost gone full circle to where in the beginning it's like so new, it's so exciting. It's like, wow, we can help people's energy move. They're having these big releases. And then like halfway through, it gets normalized. You're like, oh yeah, this is just like my job. This is what I do. It's so normal. Like I'm just moving this energy. And now, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've come full circle where it's like, this shit is so potent. Like we need to be very gentle with it. We need to revere it. We need to respect it. Not in a way of like worship it or anything like that, but like really understand that there needs to be some sort of waiver. There needs to be some sort of like, people need to understand this is not just a one and done. This is a lifelong journey when it comes to healing. And I'm seeing a lot of healers in our space awakening up to that, where they're no longer doing the one-off sessions. They're like, no.
Nope.
Like you're signing up to do this. You're signing up to commit to this.
It's almost like we're opening up a black box and then just sending people out without the integration support. And I find it so unethical and so radically irresponsible to understand that you're basically handing them the red pill in the matrix and then saying good luck.
Right.
And in reality, what we need to be doing as healers is actually empowering our clients to understand how to self-heal.
Exactly.
How to regulate their nervous system, how to look at life and triggers and find the wounds underneath it and rewire their brains. And yes, of course, release the emotional release, but it doesn't need to be so daunting. It's really gotten to be too intense. And through this, I really see a dark ego shadow side to healing that wants people to be sick and in pain so that they are addicted and dependent on their healers. And I don't want that. No. I don't want the responsibility when a client makes an energetic attachment to my being from a session. I have to clear that. There's so much that people don't see that goes on behind the eyes of the session, of the work to be a clear channel, that I'm not attaching energetically anymore unless somebody's willing to do their own work. It's just too much on my system.
Exactly. And I think that we both have, kind of gotten to that point where we know that we can be very successful at what we do. We can, have full schedules. We can go really hard. We can help as many people as we possibly can humanly, but that's not doing anyone a service. Like that's ultimately hurting us and then hurting our clients in the end, because then we're not able to fully show up, in that clear, pure channel. And kind of like what we were saying, it's again that hustle culture, just in a different form.
Weren't you seeing like 8 clients a day?
I was at one point, yeah.
And that's just ridiculous.
It's crazy, like sitting, at my computer all day long, maybe doing some in-person sessions as well. And it's just like, I can easily do that. But then I got burnt out. And I was like, this isn't what I came to do. There has to be a better way. And that's, I feel like, what this last year has been all about, of like really finding this almost like a protocol of how can we create the deepest change and the most sustainable, most like easeful and gentle way, but that also is immediate, because healing can be immediate. And that's why I love how you said, as healers, we shouldn't be, keeping them sick in these cycles. We need to empower them to be their own healers, to really see and recognize, oh, like, I have the power within me to journal through this, to meditate on this, to somatically move through this. I don't need to lean on you for the rest of my life. I don't ever want that. And actually, like, sometimes when I have a client come back, I'm like, okay, what do we really want to work on here? Like, we've already worked together for a year, like, is there, dependency here, or like, are you really ready to go to the next level? And, depending on that, we'll continue. And I remember when I first started out, it was when I would have a client almost kind of graduate and like where I was like, they're good, they're ready to like go out and do their own healing, either for others or just for themselves. It was almost like, that little bird leaving the nest. And it is kind of hard at first. And you really have to set your own ego aside and be like, now they get to be their own sovereign like healer that they always have been. Underneath it all, they just needed to be reminded and empowered. And that was definitely a little journey for me as well. Like, okay, I want my clients to, be able to go off and do their own healing and not be in that cycle.
Yeah. And it's funny because we say I'm not doing one-off healing, right? So on one hand, I'm saying I'm being responsible enough to let you know that I'm going to work with you for a set period of time that's not just one time, because I know the depth of this work.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to work with you forever.
Yes.
So follow the system that I've made, and I promise results, but you have to do the work. You have to show up. I can't do this for you.
Yeah.
I can't change the way you think.
Yeah.
I can help you shift your energy, but I can't change. It's almost like the energy work that we're doing, if it is not complemented with mind work, then we're just addicted to another chase.
Yes. Exactly. And that's why you and I just get each other, because we recognized this like a year and a half ago, where we were just like, there's more to this.
You can't just run energy and expect people to shift. Like, it's not enough.
It's not enough.
Not enough.
It is so powerful. I mean, from one energy healing, your life can absolutely radically change. But there are deep patterns within our subconscious from our ancestors, our childhood, from past lives, from the collective consciousness, that if we are not looking at them, they will continue to play out and manifest into our energetic field, into our physical body. And so, yes, you can create so much change with energy, because everything is energy ultimately. Thoughts and emotions are energy, but you have to go to the root of what is actually happening. And for me, what I found, and I feel like you found this as well, it's taking them into theta, into their subconscious, to really find like that wound, that core belief, whatever is there that is almost keeping them in that cycle and that pattern.
And if you don't change the root cause, we can clear the energy as much as we want. It'll just come back.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I noticed was like, if the person wasn't ready to do the deeper work and wasn't ready to give up what made them sick, they just wanted to be healed for 5 minutes, and then they just went back out in their life and they recreate the same situation over and over and over again. And I found myself in this savior complex of, I'll clear you again. But then I started thinking, like, the fact that I am saying out loud, I'll clear you, started to get me catching, like, I'm not supposed to be doing anything. I'm supposed to be a conduit to allow you to clear your own shit. But I'm sitting here dry heaving and coughing and purging up your energy because you're really not ready to let it go, which means inevitably I'm sitting here trying to play God. And then who am I? Then I'm in my ego. And I caught it. And I'm like, holy shit, like, I am no better than anyone else. I am in my ego trying to save you to believe that I'm good.
Amen.
And so I'm kind of done. Like, I'm done clearing for everyone else. Like, if I start to feel, obviously it happens, right? Like, you can't, but I'm not setting the intention that I'm coming to. I used to say, come to me for 4 sessions and I'll clear all your trauma. Like, what?
That was like the 1.0 version of healer Chelsi.
Right? Yeah. Then I was the Jesus lover.
Yeah.
I've gone through many variables here. Then I was like, Jesus will heal you. Then I'm like, now it's like, you know what? All I'm going to do is just love the shit out of you exactly where you are and allow you to heal yourself.
It's just love.
It's just love.
It always just comes back to love, literally. Wow. And just, it's so cool to see both of us have this evolution, and also I feel like both of us have been on a journey of disconnecting our self-worth from our success and our business.
Gosh, maybe you've done a little better with that than me, but yes, it's a journey again, because again, like, you know, you have the 8 clients that you had a day, and that made you feel like so worthy.
Yes.
You know, but then you're fucking exhausted.
Yeah.
And you have nothing to show up for your partner.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of where I'm starting to shift now, is everything I asked for, the universe gave me, as always, because it always does. So now I have a million clients on command, full intensives, full retreats. But I'm so tired, and I can't show up for my real life. I have nothing left to give Andre, and that's not okay either.
Right.
And what I really always wanted was to be worthy of love, to have the partner and the family and the career of helping people. But now I've created a monster, you know, and I have no one to blame but me. And I just have to laugh at the fact that little Chelsi is trying really hard again. You know?
She's trying so hard. She's such an overachiever.
And you know what? She's enough. And I just have to laugh and say, you did great. And then let's try tomorrow to create some more space to flow. Yeah. So that's where I'd love for you to talk to me, because I feel like you have really shifted into more of a flow state. How did you do that?
It sounds like it would be so easy to go more into a flowy state with my business and with my clients and everything. And I would say I have always been quite feminine. I'm a Gemini. I'm quite airy. I can flow. But when it came to my business, it was always like I was still connecting my self-worth. And so when I started to let go of how I was doing things, you know, with just a one-off spinal energetics, and I was transitioning into, you know, these deeper sessions, more packages and all of that, it took a lot of letting go of every time my ego coming up and saying, oh, your schedule's not as full as it used to be. Like, you know, but you're still making the same amount of money, but then you should be getting more clients, you know? And it was just this little voice inside of me that was so terrified that if I wasn't as successful as I was when I first started, then I was doing something wrong. Or, you know, I'm not as good of a practitioner or something like that. And it was definitely a gradual process. And Ibrahim, my boyfriend, he definitely has always just been such a solid rock and sounding board for me for whenever I go into those, like, pity me, victim mode, like, what am I doing wrong? I'm not worthy because my business isn't, like, the same busy as it used to be. And yeah, it took a lot of letting go. And there's been times where when I was really incorporating the hypnotherapy and kinesiology in as well, where I literally was just like, I just need to focus on honing in on exactly what this craft is. It looks like having fewer clients. It looks like practicing and perfecting what this really is. Yeah, it was a lot of just like, okay, things are going to be different from now on. And I had so much resistance, so much, because I had all these stories, all these beliefs of like, no, the people that I work with, they only want to work with me in this way. So if I offer them something new, they won't want to, I'll have to, you know, work with new people. And I had so much scarcity and fear come up. Ultimately, I mean, it really took me down, like, into the depths. And I feel like it was at the same point where I was also moving through other shadows around worthiness and friendships at the start of this year. And it was just this complete letting go of what success looks like and feels like. I feel like, you know, it really brought me to my knees at some points where I was just like, what am I doing? Well, you know, why am I doing this? Like, it hurts me so much. Like, you know, this business, I tie so much of my worthiness to it. Like, why am I even doing this? And it was when I fully disconnected my worthiness to my business that I finally fell back in love with it. And that I finally was like, oh, I get to do this. I get to show up for these beautiful humans when it feels good. and from a place where I feel nourished by, what I'm receiving and what they're receiving. And it was not an easy process, because it's I feel like as well, aside from having a healing business, but just being an entrepreneur in general, like it's so deeply ingrained in us since we were little, of like, you go to school, you get a job, you become successful, and you get the relationship, you have to have this success, otherwise you're nothing. Otherwise you're just lazy, And it's like, when you let that go and you're like, no, I literally just get to be me and show up in my authenticity and share from my heart. And like, even without that, I'm worthy. Like, it was just a complete reality shift. Yeah, it feels so good today, and it feels like the right people just come in at the right exact time, and I just trust so much deeper now. I'm not forcing anything. Of course, I'm still showing up. I'm doing the aligned actions, but it's from a place of excitement, from sharing from my overflow, not from I have to do this. Yeah, it changed everything.
And I think it's really beautiful to see you step into that receiving place, which is true feminine energy, right? Is the receiving. But I find it really challenging to be in a place of receiving while running a business with the program of what a business looks like. Especially growing up in America for both of us. Like, a business is nonstop. You always have to respond. There's so much that goes into these programs. And it's wild, because ever since when I lost my corporate job, it was a week after I met Andre. I lost my corporate job. And I fell into this like flirty feminine little energy, because he was like, I got you. And I was like, and I'd never had that before. But then slowly, I've gotten again into this. I've started my business. I went all in, and everything really was handed to me because I went all in on my business. But I've caught myself again now in this do mode. And I can really see it with how my relationship shows up to me. And I'm wondering if you feel the same. When you're in that crazy do, doesn't it shift how your relationship is? Because mine, like with Andre, gets wonky when I'm in to-do mode.
It can, and it doesn't have to at the same time. When I got into that crazy just action mode with my business and was seeing so many clients a day for like 2 months straight last year, it really threw off my relationship with Ibrahim. And I remember him looking at me one night where he was just like, you're not even listening to me. Like, you're still in work mode. And I was like,
God, that hits.
Oh my gosh, because you don't even recognize it. And it's one thing as an entrepreneur, and then it's another thing when you love your work so much and it does bring you so much fulfillment. It definitely took a moment for me to really recognize, okay, I need to find like what is kind of an anchor for me for whenever I'm done with work, because you can be a boss babe, you can do that, and you can also be feminine. And I think that's something that a lot of women are starting to wake up to, because there was that big movement of be a boss babe, hustle, like independent, I don't need a man, and which is actually so detrimental to our bodies and to our, just self-worth. At the same time, I have seen this like in my friends who also have businesses, who have a very healthy relationship with their partner, is that they can flip that switch and it can be very fluid. When they're in their business, they are in their business. They are in that mode. And then when they are done, they turn that off. It's like the same as if you were going to a 9-to-5 and you leave your work at work. And then you get to come home. But I think as entrepreneurs, we sometimes forget that.
Well, and we're working from home.
And we're working from home, right? There isn't that clear line. There isn't that time of driving from work to home where you can like let go and decompress. And so we have to be cognizant of that. We have to be aware of that. And so set an anchor, set a time where you shut your computer and then you maybe go take a shower, or you just have a snack, just some practice that really, maybe you turn off your phone even. A practice that really helps you to energetically and physically disconnect so that you can be more present with your partner. Yeah, it's definitely a practice. It can be a little wobbly at first. And it really does take having an understanding partner as well. Because, if you have a partner who really doesn't understand why you love your work or your entrepreneurial journey, that adds another layer, because they're not going to understand why you are so just married to your work in a way. And they might feel that resentment towards your work or even towards you. And so you have to be aware of that and really have that open communication of like, how can I, be even more present with you? How can I drop more into my feminine when I'm with you?
And I think it even goes both ways with, if you're living with your partner, which both of us are, plus working from home, and both people being in the serving others space, right? So then you have to manage serving myself in my own body, serving my clients, serving my partner. And there is clear boundaries and communication that needs to be set for all of that, because it'll end up being out of balance if you don't take your time for self.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like it's a balancing act all the time, but nobody's coming to save you. I say this all the time. Like, I remember I was sitting next to Andre and I was like, oh my God. I was like crying. I'm like, my schedule. And he looks at me, he's like, you did that, like, why? Yeah. Why 3 podcasts in a day? Right. Why?
Right.
And then I just have to laugh. Instead of judging and criticizing it, I have to go, there she goes again. Yeah. 8-year-old me in the driver's seat. And you just have to be like, what do you need to know that you're enough? And it really is about some sort of receiving. So I always will be like, I'll go get a massage. I have non-negotiable flow days. Like, I have to start to build that in, because that 8-year-old me that really wants to achieve and perform, she's been driving my life for 35 years. I'm 37 now. I've just flipped more into this receiving place the last couple of years. So it's going to take time. And I think people need to kind of give themselves some grace.
Yeah.
And like you said, having a partner you can talk to about it. Like, Andre's great. He's like, you're not even here. And I'm like, fuck. And then I'm like, ouch, I never want to not be here.
Yeah.
But it's a lot being an entrepreneur, taking care of your physical body, being a partner, being a friend, showing up and being present all the time.
Yeah, and then you add in your partner is also an entrepreneur, and like that's a whole other layer, because then it's like you both have to have that intentional time, like carving out that time in your week to have dates, to have moments where there's no distractions, where you can just be present. Because I was talking with my friend the other day, and they're both entrepreneurs, and she, had a weekend away from her partner. And she started to realize a lot of stuff about, what she needed to work through in the relationship and everything. And, when we aren't consciously tapping in with our partner every week, doesn't need to be every day because that's a lot, but every week or at least once a month, there can be so much that goes unsaid, and that can turn into something later down the line. And so it's so important to be intentional. And this goes for anyone, even non-entrepreneurs, to be really intentional with connecting in with your partner, because life can be so crazy, and there can be things that get swept under the rug, and you have to take those moments to be present and ask, how's your heart today? What are you actually feeling? How can we be better together? What can I improve in for us? And sometimes that only time is literally like when you're on a flight together and there's nothing else you can do. I find that Ibrahim and I have the best chats when we're flying places. Yeah, it's super important to be intentional with that.
Yeah, and conscious and present, right? Like, your presence is your greatest gift. And I think when we are present, you know, it's really easy when we're healing to be present with our partners. When we're healing, it's easy to be present with our clients, right? Put our phones away, and you're all in, you know, and then it's that same effort has to be done with your friends, with your family, with your relationship. It can't just be your clients.
Yeah.
Because it really fell out of balance for me. And I'm coming back to it, and it's been a beautiful journey coming back to it of recognizing like it so quickly can shift and be all about the business and all about the clients and all about the money coming in, but then you're missing the mark. Because when you're in the business and when you're with your clients, giving them everything is the job. But if you can't disconnect from your work and shut the computer and not think about it, something's not right. The ego's involved, and it's time to do some deeper healing work on what part of you is being served by that business, because it's no longer conscious. Now you're creating your business from your ego place of something.
Yes, 100%.
And a way to catch that is how disconnected are you from your life when you're not supposed to be working. So setting business hours, I think, is a really big boundary that people should do.
Yeah.
It's really helped me almost, you know, in one of my podcasts we talked about give yourself like a system, but where you can flow within it, like a structure, and making that a non-negotiable. So I've now got like my calendar again. This is so masculine, but it's the only way I've been able to really make it work, to train, because I have to train myself to get to the point. And now I have like colored blocks where it's like I can see how unbalanced it is when it's colored, and I look at my week and I'm like, shit, way too much do, not enough be. And I actually have just like, I used to do it by podcast, and now it's by being and doing.
Oh, I love that.
And then I'm like, oh my God, I look at my calendar and I'm like, shit, we're way out of balance. We got to bring in more be next week.
So
But it's hard to be.
Why do you find that it's hard to be?
That's when all of the feelings come up of I'm not good enough, all the thoughts, right? I should be working harder. I can't believe I'm taking a nap. I haven't worked hard enough to deserve. All of those like dark thoughts come in when I'm in that B state. And it's like, it's really hard to sit with that. It's way easier to stay busy and run.
Amen. And that is why when I was talking about it earlier, going into the flow was such a journey. It was going into the depths and sitting with those feelings of unworthiness, of fear, of failure. That is why it's so important to have the balance to allow yourself to listen. Because I remember when I first left my 9-to-5 job and I started my entrepreneurial journey, that first 4 months of becoming an entrepreneur, I had no idea what I was doing, first off. And also there was so much time for me to actually hear the internal dialogue and how I was actually feeling, that I literally got diagnosed with OCD. That was the time where I really started my healing journey. And I think that's why it's so important to have that time to be, so that it doesn't all come crashing down, eventually when you get a longer time to just be. It's like having those intervals every week, every day, where you can either take some time to journal or meditate or just disconnect and lay by the pool, or, just relax, allow your mind to just turn off. That is so important for the longevity of being an entrepreneur. Because it's not about how, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Right? And I think that's a thing that we should all as entrepreneurs put on our mirror. Yes. What is the rush? Yes.
Why isn't what you've built enough today? Of course we want to take aligned action and we want to build, but it's how much money do you have to make before it's going to be enough? How many clients do you have before it's going to be enough? Because I got to tell you, I am jam-packed and booked out through June. And it still doesn't feel like I'm enough. So how about just sitting with the I'm not enough? And that's way more terrifying than it is to stack the calendar up. Right, exactly. And it's why are we building a business in the first place? What is the purpose of this? Is it really to help others, or is it, self-serving? And when we look into the future, when we project
into what our future looks like, wouldn't we so much rather have like a balanced growth, instead of like this big growth and then a big dip because you literally burn out and you have to stop? Wouldn't it be so beautiful to, get to 70 years old, 80 years old, 90 years old and look back and say, wow, I built something that was for a lifetime.
Yeah.
That wasn't just for this, healing period. But I built something that is a legacy. Something I can pass down to my children, something that is going to be remembered for years
And
after I'm
something
gone.
that's sustainable.
Yes.
Not this big, like, because if I look at my months, even the last few, it's like busy, exhausted. It's one of the two, and I'm like, shit, I'm in the polarity again. And that's not where you want to be in entrepreneurship. I'm telling you right now, for entrepreneurship, if you're building a soul-driven business, you want to be in balance of the poles, in alignment, which means you're neither busy nor tired, you just are. So I'm like looking at my month, and I'm like, oh my God, that month was amazing, but I was so busy, I don't even remember the month.
Right.
Like I was going. I have no recollection. It was pretty much just a giant manic disassociation again, masked in entrepreneurship, where I wasn't present with my partner, my friends. I have no memories. So what is that? What am I going to say about that when I look back? Oh, cool, I had a 40K month. At what cost?
Right.
At what cost? And I was like hell of a lot happier when I had $2,000 in the bank account and I was present in actually living. Earlier this year when I lost my job, like I just spent the whole day just sitting in the pool and in the sun, and I was healthy. Now all of a sudden I've got like back issues and all these manifestations in my physical body, and I guess I'm glad that I've done the work enough to know to catch it and be like, you're going the wrong way.
Yes.
You're going the wrong way, girlfriend. Gotta come back to center. It's going too fast. You're trying to be big, and why? Because I don't feel like I'm enough. And it's just exhausting. And I just feel for everyone that's an entrepreneur that's left the corporate world that now needs to prove themselves, because I get it. It's so daunting, and it doesn't feel safe to not know when the money is going to come in and to trust that it's going to. So you feel like you got to grow so fast.
Yep.
But then it's like death.
We're just creating a new jail cell.
Exactly.
Right? Like it's just a new one that looks a little bit nicer from the outside.
Yeah, that I can put spirituality on, and I'm a healer. And in reality, I'm just, it was bullshit. So how are you going to shift now that you're kind of preparing for motherhood and family and things like that, right? Marriage.
Yeah.
It's a big question for me of how do you create a sustainable business in balance enough to also become a mother? Because that's been a big fear of mine, and I'd love to hear your insight on that.
For sure. And I think I would have started off by saying that it's going to be different for every woman. Some women want to continue to work while they are a mother, a wife, and some women definitely don't. And I think I'm somewhere in between. I feel like you are as well. Because for me, I want to still be able to have my own creative outlets, my own, mission in some ways. But at the same time, I've been going through a very big kind of identity shift and it comes back to that worthiness with my business, but allowing myself to receive from Ibrahim and receive this this support that recent old me was like, oh, I'm unworthy of being fully supported by my partner, when I'm going through a transition phase, when I'm going through a phase in my business where I'm creating a new foundation for things. And I think it's been a really unlearning and then relearning of what it gets to feel like in a relationship. And I feel like a lot of Americans, a lot of Aussies, and some people in Europe will understand that there's this kind of like underlying feeling that it should be 50-50. And that, we need to bring as much to the table as our man is bringing to the table in order to feel worthy, in order to be a good girlfriend, fiance, wife, whatever it is. It's just not true. it doesn't have to be true. It's kind of up to each person. But I know that whenever we do have children within the next few years, I want to be so present with them. I know that the business that I'm going to have to create and build is going to be able to be on autopilot. It's going to be able to have that reoccurring revenue if I choose to work. And isn't that beautiful? If I choose to work. Because I know that my worthiness is no longer placed on my success in my business. And I have a partner who's willing to support me fully when that time comes and when I let him. and I know that not every woman feels that way, that support, that like ability to fully relax into that receptivity. But every woman is worthy of that, because we aren't made to work like men. We aren't made to clean house, take care of kids, work a 9 to 5. That's why there's so many autoimmune conditions. There's so many hormone imbalances, infertility, like all of these crazy new, like diseases. It's like the world that we are living in is not what our bodies were created for. As women, like this may sound really old and traditional, but we were made to be the homemakers, to have the babies, to raise a family, to be that spiritual guidance that, our husband, our partner really needs. And maybe some people don't believe that, but our physiology does. And, we have much more sensitive nervous systems compared to men. We are these cyclical beings that we have these hormones that change drastically in the span of a month. And so there's times where we have a lot of energy and then times where we don't. And that's a beautiful thing, because that also allows us to tap into our oracle, into our intuition, ultimately that spiritual guidance that our family needs. And so with all of that being said, for me specifically, I really find that I want to be the most present mother and wife that I possibly can be. So therefore, this is the time to be building that foundation for a business that can run on autopilot, for a book to be selling thousands of copies while I sleep, for my YouTube to blow up to 1 million views because people are listening to a hypnotic track to fall asleep to. And I'm making reoccurring revenue from it. Because there's so many ways as healers these days where we don't have to be present one-on-one with our clients for them to feel our energy and have that healing.
I think that's a really beautiful point that really should be hit on, is that there is a time and a place for one-on-one healing. 100%. But it's a season. It's a season. And I think we all serve that level when we first get into the game, because it's like you want to make such an impact because you're still healing your inner child so deeply. You're still healing your wounds. So like you're showing up with everything you've got for your clients because you don't understand that there's a better way. But I think there's a season for it. And I think what I'm seeing now is like I'm at the penthouse of that season of I am maxed out with the amount of clients I can have. I can't make much more of an impact than I'm making right now. Yes, I'm making great money, but it's not sustainable. I will be a terrible mother if I have a child and I'm working like this.
Yeah.
My body is not going to be able to handle it. My adrenals are fatigued. I'm so tired, and I'm not being the best partner or friend or family member that I could be. So it's like there has to be another way to make an impact, and there is. And I think that's what's really beautiful, is that we're kind of seeing that shift of global impact and what online healing can do, and actually being able to serve more than just one person at a time. Yeah. The one-on-one stuff is amazing, but it does create codependency. The group stuff, it has so many benefits. Mirror neurons are firing in the system. You're able to really tap into the collective. People are more empowered. It's more of a self-led journey. One-on-one, it's like you are healing me, when in reality that's not actually true. The energy itself is healing you. So how can we create these group spaces where that energy can just come in and do its thing, but it's just, I'm just creating the space for the energy to flow, and then I'm getting the fuck out and going back to my life.
Yes, exactly. And, just creating that foundation for your business to really have that sustainability, so that in the future, you're not kicking yourself when you have to let it all go. Because you're a mother, or you want to focus on being a wife, whatever it is, or life happens, God forbid, that you can't show up for one-on-one stuff. I'm so grateful for your transparency and authenticity with how, you're showing up in the world and sharing okay, you can be burnt out as a healer. And I think this is such an important topic that I didn't talk about for a long time as well. And I feel like I'm, just now kind of finding my way back with what feels really, really good for my business. So yeah, this is such a beautiful topic.
Because being burnt out as a healer is dangerous for your clients and for yourself.
Yeah.
You are fucking with realms that you don't understand. And not being full with light and full yourself and stepping in there, it's a very dangerous playing ground that really we shouldn't be fucking with.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
I've seen way too much crazy shit.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'm just kind of at a place where I respect it enough to say, okay, I'm backing up. I'm not gonna, that's not my place here to do that. But I think people are too afraid to admit they're burnt out, and too afraid to say no to a client, too afraid to put their schedule and their priorities first. I struggle with that when somebody says, oh, I need to get in. I'll move everything around in my calendar. It's really hard to say no. Did you find that?
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? Recently I've been saying no a lot. It's felt so good. As we progress, the types of clients that we call in and attract in changes. And so the old clients that we used to work with might get a little upset that we're no longer, working with these energy suckers and people who are victim-minded. And I say that with love. But yeah, I've been saying no a lot more and saying, no, this is what I'm offering at this price, and it's non-negotiable. And it might upset someone, but that's okay because it feels good to me.
Yeah.
And it feels good to set that boundary, and if you're doing a session with someone where you don't feel fully aligned, whether it's because of the money or their energy, whatever it is, that is going to be transmitted through the sessions anyway. So it's why
do it?
Why do it? It's not worth it.
The energy work that we're doing, people don't understand what goes into an energy session, the amount of clearing that needs to be done before and after, and what happens with the nervous system. It is not just an hourly game here that we're charging you for. And I think it's really okay to have 1 or 2 clients a day is enough. It's enough. And I'm sorry that I can't do 8 in a day back to back to back. But what you don't see is that I'm serving you, and then I'm an absolute asshole in my life because I have nothing left to give for the life that I so desperately wanted to create. I have nothing left for my partner and for my dogs, and I'm no longer creating a life like that anymore. So if saying no to serving you goes against, what you need in a healer, then you're not the right client for me anymore. You should understand the boundary.
Yeah, and an aligned no is quite possibly one of the most magnetic and just really clearing type of statement to make for the universe, for manifestations to come through. Because when you say that aligned, empowered no from a place of love, it's boom, the client who is aligned with you and who's going to understand and who actually really understands your work and respects it, sees its worth, is going to come in the next day. That's a big thing I moved through as well, with moving away from just the one-off sessions to more of the program type stuff, because people get upset. And I understand that. I want to make healing accessible to the world, but our energy is also so precious. And so it's just finding that balance of helping the people that really truly need it, and also respecting our energy, our time, our boundaries.
It's even crazier that like my online sessions, I used to run them for like $20 a session because I was like, oh, they're just online sessions, and they weren't filling. The second I raised my prices, boom.
Exactly.
And it's like fascinating because then it's an energetic match, right?
Yep.
Like if you're charging too little, you're going to be exhausted and you're not going to serve in the best capacity, and spirit will not reward that. You have to value your worth.
Exactly.
And it's really hard because there's going to be a lot of people, and I think it typically comes from old friends, old relatives that come in and they were in resonance with you at a past part of your life. And now as you've shifted your frequency, they're like, oh, can you help me? And of course, there's nothing you want to do more than help people that you love. But the problem is the resonance is not there and the leap is too big. And I really find with energy work, people need to understand, like if you're coming into a session here and your energy is raised to here, what happens is then you now have to make a choice to let go of everything that was in your life in this frequency to meet this.
Yep.
Because now your spirit, you've tipped beyond the veil, and that's why energy work is like so crazy. You've tipped beyond the veil. You've seen this level. Now your soul is going to destroy everything in the way because you're not ignorant anymore. So like that's why this spiritual awakening, it's not just a game. It's not just like a funny little retreat. It's like, are you prepared to let go of everything that's made you sick? Because if you're not, just understand that spirit is going to take it all away from you really quick. Because you're not ignorant, you're not sleeping anymore. You've tipped beyond.
Exactly.
And I find that that's why people struggle so much with integration, is they see this energy healing. They think it's like glamorous. They come for a retreat and then they go home and life goes to fucking shit. And they're like, why can't I survive? I'm like, you asked for it. You played with the devil almost. Like you, not in the way of the devil, but it's like, you tipped into this.
You opened Pandora's box.
That's a better way of saying it.
Yeah, and it's like, it doesn't have to fall apart in a terrible way if you are already on the journey and you're already aware of being open and surrendering to the highest good and the best that is for you and the people around you. But if you're coming in and you're like, I want to release all this stuff, but like I still want life to be this way and I'm going to hold on to and try and control it to be this way still. But that's not what God or Spirit is trying to do for you. They're trying to give you everything, but you're holding on to the past breadcrumbs. But you see that that's the only way. And that's how you create chaos. You create even more issues in your life after going through a healing journey and not fully allowing it to just allow things to fall apart, to fall in place.
Because it is rainbows, butterflies, and unicorns. It is. However, most likely the life you've created up to this point is not rainbows, butterflies, and unicorns, which means there's a letting go and a detachment. And that is really up-leveling. That's not the right word. That is really, it's really disheveling. Disheveling is the right word. It's like all of a sudden, like, nothing makes sense anymore. You can't go to nightclubs anymore. You can't do drugs. You can't drink. You can't have promiscuous sex. You start having food intolerances to sugar. Caffeine starts to be too much. It's like you're really returning back into this like being, and then you have to learn how to exist and trust that the right people are going to come, and that takes time.
Yes.
It takes time.
It takes trust. And what's coming through is Michael Singer, who wrote The Untethered Soul.
Love.
He has a course all about surrender. And it's like he fully believes that the way to peace in life is the art of surrendering to what is unfolding at every single moment. It really changed my life. It changed Ibrahim's life as well. And when you're committed to this spiritual path, the more that you can find yourself surrendering to what is happening around you, whether it's friends falling away, you getting fired, you losing a relationship that you thought was going to be forever, the more that you can really see that everything that happens when you start to go on this journey is for your good, even the shitty things are still good, that is when you find the sweet spot on this journey of evolving, of learning, of letting go of the past reality. It's seeing that everything is teaching us.
Yeah, and I almost think even if you could take good and bad out,
Yes.
like, and just trust almost, like,
Yeah.
yes, of course, it's good because it's for you, but not good positive.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Like, just trust that if it's falling away, it was meant to. Something better is already on its way.
Right.
If you can just let go, you know, but that's really hard. And that's why we do need coaches and mentors and people that have walked this path to hold us through that integration and not just shift your energy and send you on your way into this crazy life of letting everything fall away. Like, go and find a community to support you on your awakening journey so that it's not this daunting path, you know?
Exactly.
So how are you going to be working with people in the future, and how can people get in touch with you?
Thank you. You know, it is evolving, and I recently made the decision to stop doing in-person sessions. I actually had my last one today, and it feels really, really good. I think that it's for just right now. I know in the future I'll probably do some in-person group events, but what I feel myself starting to turn towards is how can I make the biggest impact in, you know, the short amount of time that I do have, and really emphasize on helping people to the depths without compromising my entire life and my peace. And so what keeps coming in is teaching, which I know you do as well. And because it's like, if we can teach others to do what we are doing, that means we're impacting more people inadvertently, right? And so it definitely feels like that's going to be coming in the future. It feels very bold to claim that, but it also has been in the field for so long. And I feel like it's just been a matter of time of crystallizing this modality, crystallizing my work, and what I've kind of created. But yeah, so that feels like it's on the horizon. I have, also played with the idea of, you know, creating some sort of YouTube platform where people can go and receive a session with me through YouTube. And maybe it's a, you know, more VIP type thing, but having like hypnoenergetics be like a meditation that you can go and you can log on to YouTube and find immediately would be incredible, because I go onto YouTube looking for a meditation. Sometimes I'm like, shit, I was just looking for one of my own meditations anyway. I'll just go to my own library that I have, you know, because nobody else is doing what I'm doing.
Right.
And so, yeah, it feels like a lot's coming in, especially in this preparation for the next phase of life, to create more of that sustainable impact, but in a bigger way as well.
I love it.
So.
I love that you've gone hypnoenergetics. The name is amazing. I'm doing hypno Reiki.
I love
so
that
it's
so much.
wild that we're both doing that, you know? But to me, it's all about helping people figure out how to do soul retrievals themselves to bring all their light back and become the enlightened being that they always were.
Yes.
It's really just helping them journey themselves to find the lost parts of their soul, the fragmented, the attachments, and bringing them home. And I don't think we necessarily need to be screaming in a shala for that.
No.
But for right now, still offering that, but TBD, right? Like, I think it's evolving, and I agree. I think we can make a bigger impact if we figure out a better way to channel this frequency, because it's a frequency. It's not anything other than receiving a frequency in light codes.
Yeah.
So how can we make it more accessible and easier and more maintainable? So I love it. How can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Maggie Moon with 3 O's on Instagram, and also on YouTube at Maggie Moon with 3 O's. So keep a lookout on, the hypnoenergetics type stuff.
And you're running a retreat in Europe as well?
Yes, this September from the 14th through the 20th, and that is called La Dolce Vita, and it is for women like us who need to slow down from life and have hit that burnout point before and, have been on a healing journey, but just need some time to nourish themselves, time to actually live and enjoy life, such as eating pasta in Florence, Italy, and drinking organic wine and, doing yoga overlooking a vineyard. Like, that's the vibe.
Yeah.
Because we know that there's more to life than just healing. So
Yeah, let's bring some pleasure into the game, shall we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I love you so much, and I'm sure this won't be the first. Well, it's not the first, but I'm sure it won't be the last time we have you on here. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Chelsi.
Whoa, beautiful souls. What a journey this one has been. Maggie has blessed us so much with her vulnerability and her strength, sharing so many insights that are not only inspiring, but downright life-changing. We've explored how conscious entrepreneurs can find balance amidst the chaos, the healing powers of Kundalini, and the courage it takes to step into your own truth. So let's revisit some of the key gems we've uncovered today. Number 1, the importance of recognizing and addressing burnout on the journey to success. Number 2, how energy healing, particularly Kundalini, can awaken our deepest potential. Number 3, strategies for balancing a relationship while navigating the entrepreneurial path. Number 4, the value of embracing our wounds as a path to deeper understanding and growth. And if this episode sparked something within you, and if you feel a pull towards deeper healing and authentic living, I invite you to explore the programs that I offer, like Soul Path Mastery. These are not just courses, but an immersion into aligning your true self with the life you dream of. So thank you for being here and sharing your energy with us. If you loved this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It really helps me connect with more amazing souls like you. And until next time, remember, your journey is sacred. Embrace it, love it, and always, always, always liberate your bliss.